So, it's been about 3 days since the NBA free agency started as of recording this video, and the free agency has been pretty good. It's not been one of the best free agencies ever, as Shams said, but it's been pretty interesting. There's a lot I'm going to talk about in this video, so before we get into this video, make sure you like, subscribe, turn them noties on. Plus, I'm only going to talk about some of the big moves and contract extensions, not some of the smaller stuff like AJ Mitchell and things like that. So, anyways, let's get into it. If you could title the first day of the free agency, I would say the day of the Nuggets, Hawks, and Rockets, or something like that. Anyways, these three teams had the best free agencies on day one, so let's talk about them. First, we're going to talk about the Nuggets. The Nuggets look like title hopefuls after day one of the free agency. In the playoffs, the Nuggets pushed the eventual NBA champs to a game 7 with key players hurt, no depth on the bench. But after firing Calvin Booth, I'm pretty sure it's the interim GM, but he stepped in and finally gave this Nuggets team what they've been needing ever since that title run in 2023. Bench depth and defense. The first thing that they do is they trade away Michael Porter Jr. and a 2032 first round pick to the Nets for Cam Johnson. Honestly, I believe this is a win-win trade for both teams. In 2032, Joker will be 37, so who knows how the Nuggets will be and look like as a possible top 10 pick in 2032. Next, the Nuggets ended up signing Bruce Brown, Tim Hardaway Jr. on a vet minimum, and they traded Dario Saric to the Sacramento Kings for Jonas Valanciunas. They finally got one of the most important things for the Nuggets, a productive backup center. When Jokic is on the bench, they are one of the worst teams in the league net rating wise, but when he's on the floor, they're one of the best teams net rating wise. But they finally have a good backup center for when Jokic is on the bench. And they also escaped salary cap hell. They are now slightly over the luxury tax with 14 players under contract. For capsheets.com, it has a $16 million trade exception from the Porter Johnston swap. Next, the Hawks. The Hawks, for the past 2 years, the Hawks have been in play in limbo, especially versus the Bulls. But after this playoffs, the East is practically wide open, and the Hawks took their chances. If the Hawks had a pretty mediocre season, Trae Young would have probably been on the trade block and on a different team. But I think the Hawks have had the best free agency out of every team, in my opinion. Because after getting Kristaps Porzingis from the Boston Celtics, they get Nickel Alexander-Walker via a sign and trade from the Wolves. And they also signed Luke Kennard on a 1-year deal, also getting Asa Newell from the NBA draft. The Hawks' new GM Onsi Salah has did his thing in this offseason and had this Hawks team from looking like going to another play-in team to an actual contender in the East. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. And lastly, the Houston Rockets. After getting bounced out of the first round by the Golden State Warriors, the Rockets finally kicked it into full gear. First, they made that blockbuster Kevin Durant trade on the day of Game 7 of the NBA Finals, sending Dillon Brooks, Jalen Green, and the 10th overall pick to the Suns for Kevin Durant. And in the free agency, they re-signed Steven Adams and Fred VanVleet, and they also added Clint Capella and Dorian Finney-Smith in the free agency. Now the Rockets look like the second best team in the West. They have so much depth on their team now. Just look at the center position for them. They have Alfred Sengun as a starter, and Steven Adams and Clint Capella just on the bench. This is a very deep team, and the Rockets now look like they're in win now mode. But those are just some of the teams that won on the first day of the free agency. Let's now talk about some of the contract extensions. First, and probably the biggest contract extension, was the MVP Shai Gilgeous-Alexander getting a 4-year $285 million max contract with the OKC Thunder that will keep him under contract through the 2030-2031 season. The Thunder get their MVP for 4 more years. This is great for the Thunder. A next big extension was from the Memphis Grizzlies, keeping Jaren Jackson Jr. and signing him to a 5-year $240 million extension. Some people might think this is the overpay, but let's be honest. JJJ is the defensive anchor for this Grizzlies team. If they lost him, this would hurt them so bad, but honestly, in my opinion, this is a pretty good deal for the Grizzlies. Now the Minnesota Timberwolves extensions. The Wolves both re-signed Naz Reid and Julius Randle. Julius Randle signed a 3-year $100 million extension, and Naz re-signed a 5-year $125 million contract extension with the Timberwolves to keep 2 of their big pieces that helped them get to that Western Conference Finals run. But in doing so, they could not sign Nickel Alexander-Walker. This is a great move for the Wolves to keep their pieces. Another contract extension was James Harden. Declining his player option, and signing a 2-year $85 million extension to stay with the Los Angeles Clippers. And this was great for the Clippers because James Harden took a pay cut for roster flexibility, which helped them end up signing a few players in this free agency that I'm going to talk about later. And last, one of the huge contract extensions was for Jabari Smith Jr. signing a 5-year $122 million rookie contract extension. And honestly, this is a pretty solid contract. His potential is sky high and he has a lot of upside. And he also might learn a few things from Kevin Durant for the next 2-3 years. He averaged 12 points and 7 rebounds coming off the bench for most of the time. Also, there's one more that I forgot about. Kyrie Irving also signed a 3-year deal to stay with the Mavs, but that's just the contract extensions. Now let's get into some of the signings and trades that happened in the first day. First, Collin Sexton was traded to the Charlotte Hornets for Jusuf Nurkic. This is a great trade for the Hornets. They get a great defensive point guard to come in for LaMelo Ball when LaMelo Ball is off the floor. And for the Jazz, they get more depth at the center position. Next, the Bulls and Cavaliers just did a one-player swap, swapping Lonzo Ball for Isaac Okoro. The Bulls are such a poorly ran franchise. Lonzo Ball was literally getting trade offers that included him with a first-round pick during the midseason, and then they don't trade him, and they end up doing this in the offseason. But it's not the first time they did. This is not the first time that they did this. They also straight up just traded Alex Caruso for Josh Giddey to the OKC Thunder, and he contributed to them winning that championship. But anyway, this is a great trade for the Cavs. Isaac Okoro was kind of a failed experiment, and now they get Lonzo Ball to come off the bench for Darius Garland. And also Darius Garland is going to be out for a few weeks having surgery. Next, Ty Jerome signed a 3-year deal to come to the Memphis Grizzlies. And apparently the Cavs didn't even offer Ty Jerome anything. It's kind of crazy because Ty Jerome was amazing off the bench for this Cavs team, but it doesn't really matter. And they also paid Sam Merrill more than Ty Jerome. That's honestly crazy, but it is what it is. Ty Jerome is going to come into that Memphis Grizzlies team, and he's going to provide a great spark off the bench for when Ja Morant is not there. And the Grizzlies got themselves a good one for a pretty cheap contract too. And then the Clippers signed Brook Lopez on a 2-year deal, getting more depth at their center position. Now it's Zubac and Brook Lopez as the 2 centers. Thanks to James Harden taking that pay cut to give the Clippers more space to do what they want to do. So they ended up signing Brook Lopez. This is great for the Clippers. The last thing I want to talk about before I wrap up this free agency day 1 is Jakob Poeltl getting a 4-year $100 million extension is insane. I don't know why he's getting this type of bag, but it is what it is. I don't know what the Raptors are doing right now. Honestly, he doesn't deserve that type of contract. He's not that good enough of a player that you need to give him a $100 million contract. It's whatever. Now let's talk about day 2. Day 2 was a little bit quieter than day 1, but there was a few big things in this day. Let's go over what the Milwaukee Bucks did today. After 10 years of being with the Indiana Pacers and finally going to a finals, Miles Turner doesn't get paid enough from the Pacers. The Pacers offered him $22 million a year and he said no. He ends up joining the Milwaukee Bucks on a 4-year $107 million deal. And you probably wonder, how did the Bucks get this money to sign Miles Turner? Well, they just waived Damian Lillard. Insane. They waived Damian Lillard and they created a path to stretch his contract over the next 5 seasons. And man, this is just cold. Dame had a blood clot in the playoffs, which he fought through, and he came back. He ends up tearing his Achilles. So he's out for the next entire season. He's going to come back when he's like 36, 37, right? And then in the free agency, he ends up getting released. That's crazy. And there were reports that Giannis wasn't even happy about that. And it's honestly so sad how his career has turned out, from being loyal to the Blazers and not winning anything to finally having a new home in Milwaukee, just to end up getting injured and waived. I don't know what the direction that the Milwaukee Bucks are going in right now, but they obviously want Giannis to stay. They don't want him to go anywhere else. So it's whatever. But that was probably one of the biggest things that happened in day 2. But there was also a lot of other smaller signings that happened, like Trey Mann signing a 3-year, $24 million extension to the Charlotte Hornets. Trey Jones returning to the Bulls on a $24 million deal. D'Angelo Russell also joining the Dallas Mavericks. That's about it. But before I end this video, I'm honestly gonna go off on a tangerine for a second. But Rob Pelinka, what are you doing? LeBron James only has 1 to 2 years left, and they have been dormant in this free agency. Other than signing Jake Ralavia, I don't know if that's how you say his name, they ended up losing Dorian Finney-Smith, and they haven't addressed one of their biggest problems that they need, a center. Jackson Hayes was a non-factor in that playoff series against the Minnesota Timberwolves, and they haven't signed anybody. They couldn't sign Brook Lopez. They couldn't get Clint Capella, and now it looks like DeAndre Ayton might go to the Indiana Pacers. Insane. But if they don't do anything in the upcoming days, LeBron did opt out his contract, and there are also rumors that he could request a trade from the Lakers and go to a different team, which could suit him better in winning a ring. But yeah, that's gonna go ahead and wrap this video up. Day 3 of free agency has started as I'm recording this. It's currently 3:47 right now as I'm recording this video. So I don't know what's gonna happen today. I don't know what's gonna happen in day 3. But if you like this video, like, subscribe, comment down below what you think of the free agency so far. Do you like the moves? Who are the winners and the losers? Also, turn on the notice for more upcoming videos. But that's about it. I'm gonna catch y'all boys later, and I'm out. Peace.